Hi everyone, and welcome to the last part of this course. So this is mainly for men. However, I really encourage women who are taking this course to also watch this video. It's short but full of information, and it can help someone close to you or your family life. So let's start by defining what it means to be a healthy masculine. What is health? Health is the ability to do whatever you want. So you can move your body in the ways that you want. You're comfortable in your skin. You have mental peace. You find balance in your lifestyle so you can sustain a good state for a long time. And you're also able to endure things, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, etc. You have that strength. And masculine, in the sense of the yang energy, it's all about goals and action and growth. So although it may be aggressive, but it's always about expansion. And of course, we always want to balance this with the yin so that we're not too extreme. But in general, this is what the healthy man is. Generally speaking, men are more affected by liver and kidney issues and also happen to be more dependent on drugs and alcohol. As a result, they are at a higher risk of fertility problems, and that's usually linked to an illness or chronic health problems, injury, obesity, or sometimes even too much intercourse. It could be a result of that. It could be a depletion, and we'll look at that in the next couple of slides. So we're basically going to be looking at the liver and the kidneys, although sometimes like sexual problems can arise from a heart deficiency or a spleen deficiency, but it's much less severe and usually it's a short-term issue. So we're looking more at those long-term complications. When it comes to impotence, it's caused by pathogens or emotions, especially stress. You know that one comes up in almost everything. Or having a weak essence, and I'll explain this in the next slide. Or also from chronic illness, from taking medication, especially antidepressants and sedatives on the long term, and last but not least on substance use, so all drugs, tobacco, and alcohol that has a huge effect on the kidneys over time. So kidneys are so important for sexual health. They control our reproductive organs and they store an essence. That's something that in TCM is called Jing. Jing is like a battery life. So some people are born with a lot of Jing and others not. So to an extent it has to do with genetics and luck. Some people would have, for example, like so much Jing, they almost never get sick. They've been through so many things in life and they always come out of it like just fine. Maybe they're like crazy athletes, or they can handle so much stress at work and they're fine, while others, they get sick a lot or are much more sensitive. And if you think of it, like premature babies actually have less Jing because they haven't formed long enough inside the mother to be born with enough Jing. And so it's like a precious energy that we have to save. You can't create more of it. You can only save what you haven't spent yet. So here's your takeaway. Kidneys are linked to the organs that are responsible for, kidneys are related to the glands and the hormones in the system, so your adrenals, etc. And you need to sleep enough at night to recover, but also get enough rest by day. And so this means you need to really value your downtime because when you run out of Jing, that's actually what we call aging. So when it comes to the kidneys, there are two scenarios when diagnosing impotence or infertility. It could be a kidney yang deficiency or a kidney yin deficiency. So let's start with the yang deficiency. We know that yang is masculine, heating, and so when we don't have that, we're going to have cooling. And so there'll be low libido, pale and puffy face, especially if the salt intake is really high, a cold body, heavy legs with weakness in the knees, and a weak lower back, possibly some bloating, and loose stools or frequent urination. So in this case, because we're cold, we want to avoid cold and raw foods, but also excess salt. And we want to embrace warming spices. We want to embrace all the young foods. So cinnamon, anise, cloves, ginger, and fenugreek are great. More animal protein, especially the darker meats, and so red meat and chicken as well. But if you're looking at seafood, you want to pick the ones that are a bit darker, so salmon, trout, tuna, etc. As for the kidney yin deficiency, basically yin is the cooling, the moisture. So when we don't have that, we have hot and dry, just like in the picture here. So in this case, there will be high libido, a sore back and heel pain, a dry mouth, possibly night sweats and thirst at night, insomnia, dizziness, there could be ear ringing, and this will manifest on the face with red cheeks and a red tongue. So in this case, you want to avoid any stressful situations and jobs. Avoid alcohol, coffee, red meat, and spices, especially lamb. And instead, you want to embrace beans and melons because these are so watery and refreshing and hydrating. All berries, chestnuts, potatoes, seafood, eggs, and cheese. Now, in case there is no kidney issue, although there could be a kidney issue and a liver issue, then we'll be looking at liver qi stagnation. So we know that the liver is responsible for moving blood, hence it's also responsible for moving qi. But sometimes when the liver is overworked and overly taxed, it's not doing its job properly. And so the qi is not moving very well through it. And that means you will have irritability, anger. It could be suppressed anger, or it could be like bouts and tantrums. There could be a lot of sighing, like always going, like an annoyance. If someone asks you to do something, that will be your reaction. And it can also be on the lower end of the spectrum, depression. So when there's no will to live, keyword here, live, there's an issue with the liver. In this case, you want to eat more greens, avoid overly sweet, fatty, spicy foods or junk foods. Usually that would mean increasing dairy and meat consumption, especially the fattier ones. So probably a lean cut of meat won't do as much harm as a very juicy fatty one. You also want to avoid alcohol, except in very, very small amounts. A bit of red wine does help relieve stagnation. And actually alcohol is a bit tricky because sometimes you have the false feeling of relief from alcohol because it momentarily removes the liver stagnation, but then you become addicted to it and then it actually weakens the liver over time. Other herbal remedies would be chrysanthemum or chamomile tea. Those are excellent for the liver. And spices like cinnamon, ginger, and rosemary would be amazing for someone who is a cold type. But if you are a hot type, then mint is your go-to. Last but not least, damp heat causes a lot of obstruction in the system, and so that can manifest as a sexual obstruction. And so when you have damp heat, there tends to be excess weight that's really hard to burn off, excess sweating, dark urine, and then two extreme cases, either diarrhea or constipation, a heavy feeling in general, and a yellow tongue. So in this case, you want to remove all dampness from your foods. By now, you should know what all the damp foods are. You want to embrace neutral and bitter foods, so lots of greens, lots of spices, especially turmeric, and also would help to clear emotional luggage because a lot of emotions get stored as dampness. They affect our spleen, and so they cause everything in the body to be very sluggish, especially things like shame and guilt. I said this before and I'll say it again. Food is our best medicine because we take it several times a day. And so when we do something several times a day, every day, it has a small effect, but over time that effect accumulates and creates changes. And so that's why I love food as medicine, but I never treat someone with only foods alone. So you first try removing the foods that don't work for you, adding the foods that theoretically should work, and then see how things go. But it also always helps to have some physical hands-on approach or to move the body in certain ways to embody these changes. And sometimes we also have to go to extremes but I always recommend trying alternative treatments before going for the mainstream Western medicine. And so treatments that would help with sexual health, and these go for both men and women, are medical qigong, which I practice. So if you are in Egypt and you would like a session or even online, I'm available for that. Also breath work, and I prescribe this to my clients when I work one-on-one. Acupuncture, of course, is almost guaranteed to work on everyone as long as you're open for it. And herbalism, which I do not specialize in, but if you contact a certified herbalist, they can help you with very strong herbs. So these herbs are sometimes, actually quite often, toxic in high amounts, but in small amounts with the right direction and the right prescription, they can help you on a short time, sometimes for life, but in most cases, you do a few week course, and that helps much more than food because it's really intense, but you still have to be eating right for the herbs to work. And lastly, cold plunges are really good for promoting young energy and to make men feel more stronger. It increases testosterone. However, you want to avoid that if you are young deficient, because if you're already in a cold state, a cold plunge will only make it worse. So be careful out there. Send me questions, and I hope you found this informative and helpful. Thank you.